Some people say time travel doesn't exist.
It does exist.
It does. When was the last time you cried? How do you change the future? Is struggle, is that a mandatory class we all have to take if we want to be great? What is masculinity? What is a real man? You're like the Napoleon Hill, right? Because that's what he did, right?
Yeah.
The Fords and the Edisons, and he interviewed them and all these
it.
people to find the success metric. What's the formula? What's the recipe? That's you, man. That's you.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to find the formula.
Yeah.
Growing up, I thought I wanted success. I thought that's what I wanted, was success. And I realized that success was selfish when I hit about 30, 32 years old.
How did you
that
define
range.
success?
Well, success was accomplishing goals and dreams. And I think that's half of it. When I started studying the great minds, the great athletes, the great leaders, I realized that the truly great ones, they chase and pursue their goals and dreams in the service of others. And that's the difference between success and greatness. It's, are you, yes, going after where you feel called and drawn to use your talents to the best, but not make it about me, look at me winning, look at me succeeding. It's using your inspiration to then impact the people closest to you or the people in your platform or community or cities and things like that. Whoever you know in your circle is making the impact on them and empowering and lifting them up as you lift yourself up. And that's the difference between success and greatness.
Wow. Okay.
Because I accomplished a lot. I succeeded a lot. I made money. I did those things in sports and business, but it wasn't fulfilling. And it's because I was trying to prove people wrong. I was trying to look good. I was trying to be right. I was trying to win as opposed to create a win-win and be of service to people in the process of my dreams. And once I shifted, it's kind of when I started the School of Greatness, when I shifted it to, this is not about me looking good. It's about how do I actually put the spotlight on everyone else and make them look good. And ask them the questions, not me be the expert, but find the expert and elevate them. That's when I realized that there was a lot more fulfillment there than just me winning and succeeding at all costs.
Now, did you have to get beat up? Did you have to go through struggle in order to achieve this mindset, this direction? What was that?
It was all pretty effortless,
Okay,
pretty easy.
yeah.
No, it was lots of struggle. That was the pain because it was like constant inner struggle for most of my childhood. And then as I started succeeding, it was like I was even angrier when I would succeed because I thought it was going to make me feel differently and love myself and accept myself and be okay with who I was when I looked in the mirror. But I still was angry and unhappy. And it wasn't until I was about 29 when I started to kind of have this first awakening where there was breakdown after breakdown after breakdown in different relationships. A business partnership, an intimate relationship, friendships were just kind of like friction until all of these breakdowns kind of happened within months of themselves. And I realized, there's something that's off and I'm the common denominator.
Wow.
I'm the center of every breakdown.
Most people don't realize that.
Well, I was originally like...
They think it's everybody else.
Yeah, that's what I was originally like. Like, no one understands me, no one gets me, they don't accept me. You just, don't mess with me. I didn't think I needed to change anything because I was like, look at the results I'm getting in business and life and sports. Like, whatever I'm doing has worked based on results. But the inner results weren't there. I wasn't feeling good. I wasn't sleeping well at nights. I was ruminating and living in insecurity, masked as false confidence. So these kind of breakdowns got me to look at myself in the mirror differently and say, all right, something's off. It's worked to a certain point, but it's still off internally. And that's when I started this journey of 10 years of healing and trying different healing modalities and facing workshops and therapies and meditations and all these different things to start studying. Okay, something's off. What is greatness? Let me start studying this. And let me be the human guinea pig in the process of inner healing and inner peace and self-acceptance and self-love. There were certain moments that unlocked elements, but I still struggled in other areas of life. And it really hasn't been until the last 2 years where I was telling you beforehand that I feel the most peace I've ever had internally. Even during stress, chaos, financial turmoil, pandemic, like I felt a sense of peace. And the only reason I was able to do that, feel it, is because I was facing myself every couple weeks with intensive emotional coaching and asking my coach, I will do anything you tell me to do to create more peace, freedom, and clarity in my life. Put me through any exercise, any weirdness, journaling, healing the inner child, whatever you tell me to do, I will do it.
Wow. Who's this coach? Is you said an emotional coach?
Yeah, she's an emotional coach in the Los Angeles area. Her name's Clara, and she's been amazing. I've been working with her for 2 years, and it was also the culmination of doing emotional intelligence workshops 10 years ago, doing leadership training, doing the different. I went to India for weeks to study meditation. I went to Dr. Joe Dispenza for a week to study meditation. I've interviewed neuroscientists, therapists, and practiced integrating their lessons over 10 years. So it was also having a great foundation and being open and receptive to immersing myself in other healing modalities with a coach consistently, not just like a one-off breakthrough in awareness, but the integration of consistent practice has been huge for me. Maybe others can create an awareness moment and then be healed from 30 years of trauma and pain and, old ego holding them back. But for me, it's taken the consistent practice and saying, give me more, give me more. What else can I do? How else can I grow?
That's interesting. First of all, you good? You sweating?
I'm good. Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
Me too.
Feels good.
Yeah, it feels great. You realize something that I don't think most people do, and that's for things to get better, you have to get better.
Yes.
Most people have that attitude that, this is wrong, that's wrong, and they need to change. It's a curse word nowadays, but they never take responsibility for their own actions, their own thinking, their own results. And it's extreme ownership. I think it's somebody wrote a book called Extreme Ownership, and it's so important.
Is that Jocko Willink? Yeah.
I think so. So you took extreme ownership. And you found a teacher. You found a coach. And you have a background in pro athletics. There's no player on any team at that level that doesn't have a coach. We're living in life. Some people say life is a game, so why not have a coach, right? Why not have a guide, a mentor, a guru? You found that. And so would you say that that's good advice for somebody who's struggling in life, is to find a mentor?
I just don't think you can do anything great on your own. I think you can practice and have discipline on your own, but if you want to get to the top and then maintain a level of performance, whether that's emotional awareness in day-to-day life with your kids and your family and just being less triggered in life, or that's actually performing at your career or being in great shape or financial investing or whatever it might be, it's hard to do it all at a high level on your own. Maybe you can do one area well on your own, but I think it's hard to do all on your own. And all the greatest athletes, when they win a championship, they don't say, okay, coach, I think I'm good. Thanks for getting me here. I don't need you anymore. They actually go and find other great coaches to help them in areas that they need help in. They get more coaches, experts, specialists, and they invest more money in those coaches. They don't just say, well, I figured it out now, and so I'm good. And I'm going to coach myself next season. I'm good to go. You don't see that at any sport, at any level, the best of the best doing that. And I think the emotions are the most complicated things to manage and understand and navigate as a human being in the human 3D experience. With all that's happening in the world, if we don't learn how every painful memory of our past affects us today in the present, then we'll always be a prisoner of some type of trigger from a past pain. And so that's why I was sick and tired of being a prisoner of outside forces triggering my emotions. And it doesn't mean I'm not going to be stressed or overwhelmed from time to time or, have a reaction. But when it's an autopilot reaction based on a wound, it's never about the other person or the situation. It's about me not knowing how to navigate that experience. I used to have the wound of being taken advantage of and abused and feeling like anywhere in life, that's what was happening. Someone was abusing me when certain things would happen because I had an abused wound that I hadn't healed yet. So when the wound of sexual abuse happened, it stayed open. And so that anytime it looked like someone was taking advantage of me, they're cutting me off in front of the highway, they're saying something I don't like, it felt like you're abusing me. Just like they were poking a wound that was still open that I hadn't mended and healed. So anytime I was pushing on it, it was a reaction. It was a frustration. It was an anger. It was a defensiveness or whatever it might be. That drove me to get results, but it also hurt me and made me feel a sense of suffering and pain that was unnecessary. But the wound was open. That's why for me, these last 2 years, I've been so committed that I'm going in the past, which is hard to face, and say, where are all the situations and moments from my first memory until today that affected me in a negative way? And how can I create new meaning from those memories, create new stories from those memories, not say that I liked it, that it was okay, that these things were, I don't want them to happen to other people, but the meaning of why it's benefiting me today and why I'm choosing to be benefited by it today has supported my growth and peace.
I love that. Some people say time travel doesn't exist.
Oh, 100%, man. It does exist.
It does. And you can go back and change the past.
And you can change the future.
How do you change the future?
Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about remember the future. And I think a lot of times we remember the past too frequently, and it affects our present. But if we remember the future, the personality we are going to step into, he says our personality is our personal reality. And so if our personality now is I'm reactive and triggered, then I'm going to have a personal reality of things that react and trigger me. If we heal and mend the past and we remember the future, I'm actually calm in stressful situations. I actually know how to manage these things properly, and I'm practicing it every day by mending the past. Then we can remember who we're going to be in the future and live that today.
I love that. I'm not too familiar with Joe Dispenza's work.
You would love it.
I do have, if you go in my house, you see on my walls, I have signs, triggers, and some of them say, what would my future most developed self do?
100%. I love that.
And if I'm making decisions for my future most developed self today, I'm going to become that future most developed self.
Now.
Yeah. You have interviewed how many people? Hundreds, thousands?
1,400 episodes, over 500 million downloads, 10 years, every week.
That's amazing, dude.
Thanks.
You have been able to pick the brain of experts that 99% of people on this planet will never have the ability to do. So, Lewis, I want to ask you, you've interviewed people from, Sadhguru to Tony Robbins, so many beautiful minds. And I want to know what you've gleaned from these people in 3 categories. Let's play a game.
Yes.
What's one salient, powerful, memorable thing that you've learned from one of your guests in the area of health? Let's start there.
A neuroscientist and brain surgeon named Raul, who I asked him, what's the most important skill of human beings to optimize their health? And he said emotional regulation. So it's a little different than what maybe you might be thinking or speaking in terms of health, but I think the brain and the mind, so he does brain surgeries, but studies the mind. He's a PhD in neuroscience as well. And the ability to regulate your emotions and manage stress is going to make you healthier.
Yep.
If you're always in chronic stress, it doesn't matter how well you eat or how much water you drink or how much you sleep, the nervous system is stressed and therefore you're tight and you can't get into flow. So you're probably going to injure yourself more. You're probably going to be harder to recover. You're going to create more inflammation. So the ability to emotionally regulate, which for me means learning to go back and mend wounds and then start living. Once you do that, then start living into the future now.
Detour a little bit. How did you go back? Is this some method or?
I did it.
EMDR?
10 years ago, I've heard great things about EMDR. I haven't done that, but 10 years ago, I did an emotional intelligence workshop that was 2 weekends long here in LA. And they put us through many different games, exercises, scenarios. dyads with other individuals where you're sharing things and practicing things, small group exercises and full group exercises that would reflect how you show up and respond in life. Like the game scenario or the exercise typically would reflect, based on your reactions in that game or exercise, how you show up in life. In stressful, vulnerable, emotional, loving situations. And so from that process, I got to every day journal and reflect how I show up, what works for me and what doesn't work for me. So that was a kind of an opener for me. But I've done different therapies and had different coaches. I like actually emotional coaches. I love therapy, but I love having a coach who is like, for me, like more direct and like more like, I need you to work on this exercise and do this thing, not just let's talk about it only. So if you can find a therapist who also gives you exercises,
practical steps
that you are taking action on and moving towards something as opposed to just going into the past, that works better for me. But everyone has to figure out what works well for them.
Sure.
But that's been powerful. And I think having the emotional coaching, someone giving me feedback and saying, give me more, give me more, give me more, has been powerful. And then also, I've studied lots of different meditations, as I know you have. And that is, the consistency of that keeps my nervous system calm. So it's a combination of things. And I don't think there's a one modality that solves everything. I think it's like figuring out a combination of practices.
Throw the kitchen sink at it.
You know what I mean?
We have to use everything we have, at our disposal.
Exactly. I mean, hot therapy is one way to do it too. Cold therapy is another way. Like I've been to Poland and studied Wim Hof training and, been in the ice and cold rivers and done breathe. Anytime I breathe, any type of breathing techniques, I relax. You know what I mean? Anytime I get in the cold or I get in the steam or a sauna, there's some type of emotional and physical release that happens where you can just breathe and move through it. So I feel like it's all good.
Awesome. Okay. So love that. Health, emotional intelligence, emotional regulation.
Yes.
Brilliant. I always say I'd rather be the person who lives a positive, happy life eating McDonald's every day than the vegan who's miserable, blaming everybody and stressed out.
Absolutely,
I think the McDonald's person is going to live longer.
Way better, man. Way longer. Yeah. If you have joy and love in your heart and you have forgiveness, then you can get away with a lot. It doesn't matter if you're gluten-free or gluten-full, if you're a freaking meat eater or vegan, you can live over 100 and have great connections and relationships if you have joy in your heart.
Love that. All right. So health, how about relationships? What's one big takeaway from all of your guests? What's one that comes to mind?
Well, I think that the secret to a happy life is successful, healthy relationships. And the secret to healthy relationships is vulnerability, is the ability to look someone in the eyes and connect and truly listen. Something that I always do is acknowledge people on my show for what I see in them. I believe most of us, at the end of the day, want to be seen, heard, and acknowledged for who we are. Not necessarily our talents, but for our hearts and our inner worth. And so I always try to do that with my friends and family, and is to see in their heart and their soul and acknowledge them for the gift they are in the world. And I think people have lost the art of acknowledgement. And if we can do that more, and it takes courage to look a friend or your partner or a family member in the eyes and say, I really acknowledge you for the way you show up. It's a beautiful thing. It takes courage to be vulnerable.
Wow.
Because people don't know how to receive it a lot of the time. It's like uncomfortable for at least American society to receive a compliment or we want to be seen and heard and validated, and yet it's still hard to receive that.
I don't think I've ever met like one person who's really been able to fully receive a compliment that I've given them.
Right.
And maybe it's me too. Maybe I haven't fully, it's a tough thing, but I agree. I think we all want to be acknowledged. We all want to feel significant. Somebody says everybody walks around with a sign around their neck that says, make me feel important. I was reading a really old book the other day, because this is actually something that sometimes I have trouble with, is really showing gratitude to people and acknowledging people.
Why?
Well, because I'm more introverted. you know. But it's, I think I'm a work in progress. One thing that helped me though, it was this guy, I can't remember his name, but he said, everyone you meet, pretend that they're going to die at midnight.
Wow. It makes it real. It makes it urgent. What do I need to say? How should I hug them? How can I love on them, right?
When that clock hits 12.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Make sure you get it out.
Yeah. Such a beautiful
That's a good
point.
one.
Okay, so we did health, we did relationships. Let's talk about something that we don't talk about a lot in the wellness space, in the spiritual meditative space, but it's very important for stress reduction. Many of the divorces we see in this country are because of it.
Money.
Well,
I knew you'd ask me that. So here's a quick story for you around money. And this is from someone that I learned before my podcast actually started, but it was a mentor of mine early on when I was broke. I was on my sister's couch, and I had this mentor that I was learning from. I was actually kind of working for as an intern for a few hours a day for like 6 months. And I worked in the closet of the kitchen. They didn't have like extra space in their little home office thing. And so I worked in the kitchen in the closet, and my chair stuck out of the closet. So people would walk by me to like get food out of the fridge with my back to them. And it was always like this awkward thing. But it was a beautiful experience and lesson. After a few months of working with him, I said, all I want is like an hour once a week during the lunch break to be able to walk with you and ask you questions. And I'll work for free. He ended up paying me a little bit or something at the end of the day, but I was like, I'll work for free if I can ask you questions for an hour once a week. And after a few months of this, I was like asking about money because I was just struggling. I was like, man, I don't know how to make money. I don't have any money. I'm in debt. I asked him something about money, and I remember vividly, he said, money comes to you when you're ready for it. At the time, I was like, I'm pretty ready to have some money. I feel ready, like I need this money right now. And he goes, money comes to you when you're ready for it. And I didn't understand it until maybe like a year later when I started to make money little by little. And then it started to kind of come in waves when I was like, oh, I wouldn't have been ready for the pressure or the weight of this type of money a year ago when mentally and emotionally I wasn't prepared for it. So I still had to learn lessons. I still don't need to prepare myself mentally. And yet I'm pretty sure you've heard the stat that I think it's something like 78% of NFL players go bankrupt 4 years after they retire.
Wow.
Something like that. And maybe it's adjusted now, but this was like the stat 10 years ago. Within 4 years after they retire, like 78% go bankrupt.
Wow.
So you might have the talent to do something in sports or something else, but if you're not mentally and emotionally trained and prepared for abundance of money, you're not going to manage it well. And so money comes to you when you're ready for it, or you will lose it if you're not ready for it. And I think we really need to educate ourselves on money, study it, and create a loving relationship with money.
Wow.
Be appreciative and grateful for money. I had this guy, Ken Honda, on who wrote a book called Happy Money. And he said, every time money comes into you, thank money. Thank it. Like if it's $1 comes to you, say, thank you, money. Where would you like to go? And he says, treat money like a good friend of yours. You want to thank it. You want to appreciate it. You want to love it. You want to invest in them. You want to have a good conversation with them. But a lot of people treat money out of fear, anxiety, stress, and they have bad conversations around money. They speak poorly to their money. They worry and hold on to they cling on to it as opposed to let it come and go. If you have a relationship and you're always clinging on to someone, you're going to feel needy, and that person's going to reject you eventually.
Somebody said you don't spend the money, you circulate it.
Yeah. Let it flow. Let it come, let it go. Yeah. And say, where do you want to go? So he says, where do you want to go, money? Do you want to go to my bank account? Do you want to go to this investment? Do you want to just put it on the floor for someone to pick it up and bring joy to someone else today? Where do you want to go? And so he has a relationship with money. And I think if we can learn the skill of having a meaningful relationship with money as opposed to a fearful relationship, then it will come to us more frequently and it will come when we're ready for it.
Love that. That's a gem. How you feeling?
Great.
You feel good?
Feel good.
Another 20 minutes in here? Or you? Well, I think we should step out. Let's get cool, man. I'm sweating like crazy. Oh, my man.
Cheers to you,
Cheers
Prince.
to you, bro.
Appreciate you, brother.
The legend. Finally sitting with the legend, man.
You know,
Tables have turned.
I was just in St. Louis this last weekend.
Okay.
And I was thinking about you. There's only really a handful of people from St. Louis that I know that are really quality people, and you're one of them.
What were you doing there?
I was visiting my high school alma mater. They were doing like a grand opening of an athletic complex in my high school. And they asked me to come back and be there for like the opening ceremony and stuff. So yeah, it's good to be back for a couple of days.
That feel good doing that?
Good. Yeah, it felt good. It's nice. A lot of memories,
What would the high school version of Lewis say to the Lewis sitting right here drinking coconut water?
Oh man, I think he'd be pretty pumped. He'd be like, "Man, you did all that." He'd be like, "You're living this life now?" Because I didn't think it was possible for me. I saw other people living a certain life, and I was like, "Man, how do they even get there? How it seems so far away. I don't have the skills. I'm too afraid. How am I even going to create that?" So I think I'd be like pretty excited to be like, "Wow, you mean I actually overcame all those things to get there? That's pretty cool."
Is that a meditation you do? I know you talked about like your regression, child regression therapy.
Yeah. It's interesting. I started practicing something that my girlfriend taught me about a year and a half ago. I used to have visions and dreams about the future a lot as a kid, about what I wanted to create, my intention, and all that stuff, specifically in sports. That's what I had dreams around. And I would visualize as if I was in that situation of the athlete that I wanted to be. And when I met her, within a few months, she went up on top of a building where we were, and she said, "Scream back to your younger self. Keep going." She said, "We're going to time travel right now. And I want you to scream, keep going as loud as you can to the younger version of yourself. And maybe that was part of your intuition back then that caused you to do the things you did. Maybe we're traveling in time and you're speaking to the kid at 15, 12, 22 who was struggling but needed that encouragement, and you are the inner voice speaking to him." And I go, I've always dreamt and had visions in the future, but not in the past in terms of encouragement of my younger self. I've mended wounds, but not channeling through time travel. And so I started doing that with her a little bit, where we'd meditate on that, we'd scream, we'd say, "Keep going."
The top of a building? Is that
Top of a building, yeah. We screamed. Top of a building. We were at a restaurant, and there was like a rooftop thing. We screamed out, "Keep going." And now I'm screaming to my future self, "Thank you." Because my future self is pulling me there. It's encouraging me. So I'm saying, "Thank you" to my future self for giving me that encouragement now.
It almost made me shed a tear, man. That's powerful, man.
I don't know if this is too weird for this show, but
Nah, man, that's deep.
I figured maybe you would appreciate this type of stuff.
Yeah, it's real. Well, I guess on that note, tell me, what was the hardest decision that you had to make in order to get you to where you are today?
Except that my father was no longer able to support me. He got into a car accident when I was 21 and was in a coma for 3 months. Another car came through his windshield and hit him in the head, split his head open. They had to cut the car open, helicopter him out to a hospital. He was on vacation in New Zealand at the time. And for 3 months, we didn't know if he was going to live or die. He wasn't waking up. He was on life support. He eventually woke up. And when he came home, I thought he was going to be the man I knew him to be. But he had amnesia, he couldn't speak, and his personality had shifted because of the brain trauma. And it took about 4 or 5 years to me accept that he may never get back to the person he was and be what I needed him to be as a father figure, as a mentor, as a guide, as a emotional support, physical support, financial support at that time when I had no money. I was 21. So he was a big supporter of me chasing my dreams and pursuing him. And he was like, always supported me. And he said, if, when you're done, or if you ever, it doesn't work out, you can always come back and you can work with me. You always have a place to land if you need to. And it was always kind of a backup plan, right? It never stopped me from like going after I wanted, but I was like, okay, well, maybe I don't need to learn certain skills because I can just kind of go back and I'll have a job. And so when he got into his accident and he never fully recovered, he lived for 17 more years until he died last year. But it was extremely challenging to sit with him because he wouldn't remember my name. He wouldn't remember like what I did in school or what sports I played. So he could have a conversation with you, but he would have to kind of repeat the same things over and over. So it was just a challenge to sit with him and accept that he wouldn't be able to support me and give me what I needed as a father figure anymore. And it's almost like he died that day emotionally, but physically he was still alive. And I wasn't able to grieve fully until he passed, I feel like, because he was here, but I was grieving a life he once lived. And so that was a challenge, but learning to accept that he was no longer able to support me emotionally, mentally, financially, physically as a safety was something that I had to face in my kind of mid to late 20s. And although it was one of the most challenging things, it was also the most empowering thing because it unlocked something in my DNA, I guess, to made me say, okay, there's no one coming to rescue me or save me or support me in this way. I get to learn, overcome, figure out all these skills, tools that I have no clue what I'm doing in order to survive and thrive eventually. So what was the hardest thing in my life probably was actually the greatest gift, because I would not care about people, humanity, healing, service had that not happened. It put me on a trajectory of wanting to make the biggest impact I could make and live with urgency on all my dreams, because if that could happen in a moment to him, it could also happen to me.
What a fragile life we live, man. So I think that brings me back to that question is like, you studied greatness. Is that a mandatory class we all have to take if we want to be great?
Man, I just don't think anything great comes from living comfortably.
Yeah.
So the key is, what type of discomfort do you want to experience? Do you want to experience a discomfort that you step into and decide and own on a daily basis, doing hard things consistently to help you overcome and grow? Or do you want to wait comfortably until discomfort comes to you with life experiences and then try to overcome them? And when we do that, we're more fragile, and it's harder to gain confidence and strength and power when adversities come our way. So either way, we get to face adversity. We just get to choose, do we want to own the adversity or let the adversity own us?
Awesome. When was the last time you cried?
I'm a pretty vulnerable guy. I allow myself to have a full range of emotions when I feel them. Someone gave a speech at my alma mater at this opening of this facility in St. Louis. And this man, Travis, gave a speech because he had a vision. He had a vision in place 6 years ago to open this sports complex in honor of a late coach that he had who taught him moral courage, who taught him leadership, who taught him humility and not needing the credit, who taught him how to be of service. And his speech was so moving about how his mentor and coach, his track coach named Bill Simon, impacted his life when he was in school, that it gave him the courage to have a vision for an entire student body and community and alumni to have a new facility to bring the environment for moral and physical and spiritual development with students and human beings for the next 50 or 100 years of this building's experience. And the speech was so beautiful that it made me cry, because he had so much love for his coach, and he has so much love for the school and the students that are going through the school. And it was just a beautiful experience. I cry in speeches, I cry in movies, I'll cry,
well, I love
songs.
That. Yeah. Well, I mean, you have redefined, or maybe it's not even redefined. Maybe you've gotten to the root of what real masculinity is. What is masculinity? What is a real man?
I think a real man is a man who has command and ownership of himself and can also step into vulnerability at any time. For me, it's someone who lives a life of service. That is masculinity. It's living a life of service. And again, I think we first need to serve ourselves and make sure we're taking care of our health, our mind, body, and spirit, everything. And we need to make sure we are being in service to high-minded self, taking care of self, so that we have the energy, the clarity, and the focus to serve our mission and also the people around us. I think that's what a masculine man is. Someone who can have the full range of emotions, be vulnerable, and live a life of service.
Love that. Love that. You speak to a lot of relationships online and in your interviews, on your social media. You show your relationship on social media as well. You're very proud of it. You had a quote. You said, a healthy relationship is one where two independent people make a deal that they will try to help the other person be the best version of themselves. Lewis, what do you wish you knew about relationships when you were younger?
That the most important relationship is the one you have with yourself. And it's extremely hard to create harmony in an intimate partnership if you don't have harmony within you first. That's what I wish I knew, because I didn't have harmony for a lot of my life internally, and therefore there was conflict in every relationship that I chose. Also, I wish I would have known that love is not enough for a relationship to work out on its own, but love with alignment and values, vision, and lifestyle can sustain and overcome the challenges or adversities of life.
Say that again and slow it down. Love with...
Love is not enough on its own, but love aligned with the right values, vision, and lifestyle can sustain over adversities over a period of time. And I didn't understand that until I experienced a lot of breakups and conflict and stress and pain in relationships over and over and over again, until I said, okay, whatever I'm doing is not working. And I need to figure out why it's not working. And there was disalignment and disharmony within me still in certain areas. And it's why I was choosing certain relationships based on a wound, as opposed to based on a healthy vision, a conscious vision. And really only getting into a committed relationship now because of alignment of values, vision, and lifestyle, and alignment of a healing journey, both parties, not just one party working to grow and the other person not willing to grow. And so an alignment and an agreement that we're both on this journey to grow individually and together. And early on in the relationship with Martha, I was like, here's my values, here's my vision, here's my lifestyle. And we actually did an exercise where we wrote these down individually and shared them with each other so that we weren't influenced by the other person. So I showed her mine after she wrote hers, and we shared them together. And 80% of everything we talked about was in alignment.
Lined up.
It was alignment. And it wasn't like anything was out of alignment. It was just like, okay, you care about that. I don't care about that, but it's cool if you care about that, you know? And she also asked me, another thing I wish I knew about relationships was brutal honesty. Because she asked me early on the priorities question that most women like to ask the guy they're dating. What are your priorities in life, Lewis?
Yeah.
And I said, before I answered her, I said, are you sure you want to know the truth of my priorities? Because I've shared the truth in the past and it hurt the people I was dating. Or they were disappointed and hurt and reactive. So are you sure you want the truth? Because most people, they don't want it. And she said, yes, I want the truth. I go, okay. Well, we may not hang out after this conversation because you may not want to be with me anymore or hang out with me. And I'm cool with that, but I'm just letting you know I'm being honest with you. So don't say I wasn't honest with you. And you've got to be willing to walk away if you're not in alignment. No matter how much you're chemically attracted, how much you like the person, how much you love the person, you've got to be willing to say, we either got to find alignment and agreements or be willing to walk away. Otherwise, you're going to be abandoning your core nature over and over again to please one person. And at the end of the day, I don't feel like that's going to be ultimately fulfilling for either person. Out. So I said, okay, well, most women want to know that they're the number one priority in the man's relationship. And I'm telling you, you will never be number one for me. My health will be number one. My emotional, spiritual, and physical health must be at the core of my top priority. And I want that to be at the core of your top priority for your life. I don't want you to put kids first. I don't want you to put me first. I don't want you to put career first. I want you to put you first so that you're happy, whole, and taken care of. And my second priority is not you. And no woman wants to hear they're not number two either. One or two, it's like, get me out of here.
Wow.
My second priority is my mission. What I feel called from my creator to do in this world. And that's going to take a lot of energy, time, and effort and focus. And right now, that mission is clear for this season of my life. I know what I'm here to do right now. And in the past, I've had partners try to pull me away from my mission too much and be upset of my mission. And that's where I felt frustrated and there was a disconnect. And I said, but after one, taking care of my health, number two, taking care of my mission, number three would be my relationship. But let me give a caveat and context. Just because
you said this to her. This is great.
I said this to her.
This is great.
But just because I need to make sure every day I'm taking care of my health. It's not like I'm doing 10 hours a day on my health. Right? I need to make sure that's a priority. Number two, I'm going to take care of my mission. But if I'm doing one and two, you're going to feel like the number one priority. You're going to get the best of me every moment I'm with you. I'm going to be present, loving, giving, so grateful to be in a relationship with a person who accepts my priorities. That you're going to feel number one. You're going to know you're number one. You're going to feel more number one than anyone else feels it in their relationships when they say they're number one, because I'm going to feel good about me and you're going to have a great partner. And she looked at me and she goes, I love it. This is amazing. Because I've never been with a guy who had a mission. And so I love that you want to take care of your health and you've got a mission. And I actually don't want you to make me the number one. I want you to make your mission number one. And I was like, really? I was like, cool, great. So that's another thing. And the last thing I'll say is total acceptance of the person once you're choosing to be in the relationship with them. And I think when you're dating and hanging out and just connecting with people, you're exploring. But before I chose to be in a committed relationship with Martha, I said to her, I had to ask myself, am I 100% comfortable with who she is, her life, her career choices, her friends, her family, everything. So I wanted to know it all. Tell me it all. And she's an actor and she's done kissing scenes before and she's been on set with good looking guys, shirtless, blah, blah, all this stuff. And I go, this could be a possibility. Am I okay with that? This is who she is. This is an artistic expression. Am I okay if she does this in the future? And I had to really think and be like, yes, I am okay. I'm okay if she wants to continue to live this lifestyle that she's living now. Because if I'm changing her, I'm not fully accepting her. So I told her, I fully accept who you are. There's no reason I should get upset at you unless we're out of alignment with agreement. But once we have an agreement, I should never be upset at you for the choices you're making because I know and trust who you are. And therefore, I'm going to fully accept you. And that means I want a mirrored, fully acceptance of me, knowing that I travel, I speak, I interview people, I'm in, meetings with people, all this stuff. And you got to fully accept who I am. And if you do that and I accept you, I feel like we're going to have a great relationship. So I think the total acceptance is a thing that a lot of people struggle with. They try to change their partner. And I don't think that works long term.
No, of course not. Well, that's love,
Acceptance.
Yes, love's other name.
Or don't choose to be with that person. If you can't accept them, don't make them your partner.
Yeah.
Make them your friend.
Yeah.
If you can't accept that, you don't have to be in a relationship with them.
One thing you said reminded me of somebody wise told me, when you were breaking down your priorities, which were just so on point because she will feel number one
100%.
when you're elevated at this high vibration with your health, with your mission, makes everything better. But somebody said, you come first right after me.
Right. So true, man. So true.
You come first right after me.
You come first right after me and my mission. Then you're first. I like that. Maybe you're my number one priority right after these two things.
I like that. So, Louis, you've interviewed so many people, and I'm curious, is there anybody not with us on this planet at this time that you would have loved to have on your show?
Oh, man. For whatever reason, Muhammad Ali came to mind. I have a artwork that someone gave me of him behind me, and I just think he would have been a fascinating conversation. I think he lived such an interesting life and had so many different experiences. Whether you love or hate his personality, I think he just lived an interesting life. And I would have loved to understand his mindset, what made him feel the most loved. Was he ever insecure when he was talking so much? Or was that authentic confidence? What gave him his confidence? I think I was just been fascinated by his mental makeup and his emotional being. And I think that would have been an interesting conversation.
That's great. I literally can't think of anybody better fit to give that interview than you.
It would have been fun.
Yeah, I see it. I see it happening.
Yeah.
Maybe in another life.
Man. Maybe AI.
So that's what I'm saying. Maybe some AI. So I did something cool, Louis. I told my audience that I was going to interview you, and I asked them what questions they have for you. So one of them, Samson Clive, he asks, what is an ability that you think everybody should get or have?
The ability of emotional regulation, I think, is the thing, because you'll make better decisions every day in life if you have a peaceful nervous system.
Boom.
Simple.
Love that. Adam Richter, Louis, I really love soccer. I know I'll do great if I go down this path, but I am a trans guy who hasn't yet started to transition. There's no place in my country to practice soccer in a men's team as a trans guy. Any tips that I'd be able to achieve my goal?
I think find a friend that accepts you fully, that can support you in practicing at this time. Work on your skills. If you're in a society or culture that does not allow something currently, and you love something, but you're unable to do it, then find a friend or two that fully accepts you, that can play soccer, and practice with them in the time being until things change in your society.
Love that.
Don't stop doing the thing you love just because you can't do it based on society.
Yeah.
Find another way around doing the thing you love that brings you the most joy.
Yep.
And try to push for it in society, but you know, control what you can control.
Yeah, I'd give the same advice. I think it's having that community around you. If you can't move country, that might be what you want to do. But until then, have a loving, supportive community around you and practice your butt off.
Yeah, exactly.
And get the skills to back it up.
Exactly.
And you can do whatever you want to do. It'll
100%,
happen.
100%.
It'll happen. One question I like to ask people, Louis, is if you had a magic wand that you could wave at the world and tomorrow, whatever you ask for would come true, what would you?
That people understand that they are loved, worthy, and that they matter. Again, just like emotional regulation, I don't think a lot of people believe that they are loved, that they are worthy, and that they matter.
Wow.
And therefore we do things in the wrong ways to try to feel loved, worthy, and matter. And those things may never be enough in order to feel it. So just know that you are here and you are loved, worthy, and matter, no matter what has happened to you, no matter what you've gone through, that you're here for that purpose of love.
That's so beautiful. Robert Cavett, he once said that every day, 2 billion people go to bed hungry. And every day, 3 billion people go to bed hungry for a single word of appreciation.
Ooh.
That's such an important thing. I mean, if if your wish were to come true, you would save so many lives, cure so many ills. That's such a beautiful.
How many people go hungry of appreciation?
3
billion a day?
Mm.
Yeah. Another stat, 185,000 people die every day.
Mm.
And knowing that you weren't one of them is something to appreciate.
It's something to meditate on every day. Here I am in this mystery of life, this gift, this fragile existence. It's wild.
Wow.
Tell me about this book you got coming out, The Greatness Mindset. You told me this was the wisdom you wish you had 10 years ago.
Yes.
And I love that. So what are people going to get when they read this book?
I think we all have a unique human experience with different challenges and adversities. And again, this is the book I wish I had 10 years ago or when I was 15, and the book that I'm glad I have now, because I believe at any season or stage of life, this is exactly what I would want to help me navigate getting to where I want to be.
Wow.
It starts with clarity around a meaningful mission. And if we are without a mission, we are much more destructive of ourselves, our environment, and people around us. You think about the vets, the military vets that come home and no longer have a mission. A lot of them struggle unless they have a program of support or a new mission to be of service of. So we must shift from success into greatness with a meaningful mission. Otherwise, we're always going to be searching for something outside of us to bring us peace and fulfillment. And it just never is enough. So the meaningful mission is step one, is getting clear on what your meaningful mission will be at every season or stage of life so that you have a direction that is service-based. The rest of it will be, I was telling you beforehand that I was at an event recently where some extremely successful, well-known individuals, and a lot of them seemed like they were struggling because they were at new stages. They were at new seasons, new chapters. And old insecurities and fears creeped in because they were trying something new that they had never done. And they were worried about, what if I fail? What if it doesn't work out? What if people judge me? And the 3 main fears that cause us to doubt ourselves are the fear of failure, success, and judgment. And so the book shows you how to identify which one is your core fear and how to overcome that fear. I believe self-doubt is the killer of all dreams. If we doubt ourselves, most times we won't take action, or we'll take action that is fearful and it's not flowing, right? It's more fearful, it's hesitant, we're not all in on the action. And that causes us to not create what we want when we doubt ourselves. And so this will help you identify which fear and figure out how to process the healing journey for you. Again, when we can mend and heal the wounds and create new memories and meaning from the past, we can have a lot more freedom moving forward. And so that will give you the tools on how to do that based on 10 years of interviews and science and research from the top neuroscientists, therapists, doctors, mental health professionals, world-class athletes, billionaires, tying it all together to give them practical, simple tools. Again, I write the books that make it easy for me to understand the challenging and complicated. And so I wrote this for me at 15, 21, 30, and today. And 10 years from now. To have a guide. If I ever go off track, if I ever feel stuck, or if I ever feel like I'm losing myself, this is going to bring me back to my authentic self. And so that's what this is all about.
The Greatness Mindset. Unlock the power of your mind and live your best life today. This looks like a great read, man. I can't wait to dive in. Lewis Howes, where can people find you? Where can people grab the book?
You can get the book at lewishowes.com or greatness.com or Amazon or anywhere books are sold. And the School of Greatness podcast or social media, my name, anywhere you are on social media.
My man. This was an honor, a pleasure, and a privilege, dude. Like I saw a new side of you, you know what I'm saying? Like people might not know, but we're friends, we're from the same area, St. Louis, and we connected on a different level, a deeper level, but we haven't spoken in a while. And I've just seen so much growth and wisdom. What you're doing with this book, I can say is definitely something people need to look into, because you're going to be that mentor for so many people. And so I haven't even read it yet, but I know where your heart is, and I know it's in the right place. The greatness mindset. I'm in.
Thanks,
My
brother.
man.
Appreciate
Thanks for
you, man.
coming on.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate you.